everybody? Luke Thomas here, and I'm here with a specific purpose. I'm here to appeal to people's decency, their rationality even, I would argue. I have seen some chatter suggesting that fight promoters in the US, UK, EU, perhaps some of the other nations that have joined, New Zealand, Australia, some others as well, that these nations should ban Russian fighters from competing on their soil, be them boxers or MMA fighters. And I got to tell you, I find it to be a really bad idea. I know we are in the midst of these economic sanctions being let go. I know we are in the midst of now a lot of companies severing ties with Russia, but let me just tell you why I think it's a really, really bad idea. Number one, certainly this would not be my area of expertise. So please fact check me and please do as much reading on this as you can. Certainly I am doing the same. But from every credible or even semi-credible source that I can find, these sanctions are apparently historic in nature and go to places that maybe economic sanctions have never gone before. Not just the United States, of course, the US, the UK, and all of Europe, or certainly large swaths of it. So what has happened? Well, a few things. First of all, the US and Britain announced a series of sanctions. When you combine them from the ones from 2014, together would kick basically most Russian assets out of the countries. Britain and the US have basically banned any purchase of Russian sovereign debt. The US, EU, and Britain are seizing yachts and all other kinds of accounts, freezing them this way and that for all of these rich Russian oligarchs as well. They even went after the Central Bank of Russia. This is the bank that has an estimated equivalent of $630 billion sitting there. That's the amount of value that's there. But it's their foreign exchange reserve. So it's in all these other currencies, basically. And what that enables them to do is get around the sanctions, or at least in large part, from 2014 to store this. This is what all the experts had said was going to power the war in Ukraine to begin with. Okay, they even went after that. They even took them out of the SWIFT system. Folks, this is the system that the banks use. It's a private electronic, essentially messaging service that they talk to each other and use for financial transactions. This would put Russia, now that they've been eliminated from SWIFT, or most of the banks have anyway, on par with like Venezuela and Iran. I haven't even talked about how badly this is going to impact exports and imports. The thing you should remember from all of this is they have largely removed Russian financial institutions from the global financial system. Let's be a little bit sympathetic here for just a second. We can all say, if we want, or you don't have to, but even if you agree that the sanctions are a good idea, and that's a separate debate, let's just talk about the impact. Folks, this is going to devastate that economy. They are smothering it. And again, good or bad, I'm not here to decide. You decide. The world will decide. But this is not a walk in the park set of economic sanctions that they're just going to be able to work around. This is going to have an extraordinary impact on the lives of tens of millions of Russians. Adam Tooze is the director of the Europe Institute at Columbia University, and he has said this will probably decimate the lower middle class on down. This is going to have pernicious effects. And so, when we recognize we are in historic, great power reorienting kind of change and moment through this punitive action, what would be the purpose of calling on additional private actors to get involved to toe the line, just so we can sow as much Russian misery as possible? Understand something, folks. We are watching this war, this invasion, this crime, not like they're watching it in Russia. It's hard to say exactly what the feeling is there. There's some good feelings maybe around the idea that the Russian people will push back on this. I guess we'll have to see. No one really knows. But the point I'm trying to make is this is going to reach them. They're going to interpret the world and the war through the lens that the government allows them to. There's no telling how all of this could go. Adam Tooze has argued more recently, if you don't believe me, you can believe him or anybody else, that there is an extreme amount of uncertainty once you just unleash these forces into the world. Nicholas Mulder, who is an assistant professor of European history at Cornell, has argued the same in his whole new book on sanctions. Once you release this into the world, you just don't know exactly how it's all going to be interpreted and received. And what I mean by that is we can guarantee this is going to cause misery, but are the Russians going to blame Putin? Are they going to blame us? Are they going to blame us based on the information that they get or not? Nobody really knows. So in addition to just being gratuitous and vile, and punitive just for the sake of being punitive, it may end up even backfiring trying to get folks involved with that, where we're just sowing as much Russian discontent as possible for ordinary citizens. Look, I know FIFA has said that the Russian soccer team essentially is going to be, for the time being anyway, erased from World Soccer and certainly World Cup qualifying, and that's okay in some sense, right? Because that's a state actor, or at least that's the official state representative that runs the governing body of soccer. Also in Champions League, there's going to be some issues, it seems, about what some of the teams might be able to do over there. In Europa League as well. So it's not that there are no private actors taking up this cause in some kind of a way, but what would be the benefit to the consumers, to the fighters, to the product, to the sport, and then, frankly, to the larger effort to convince Russians to do what exactly? I'm not entirely sure. And folks, I'm not even saying that there's no place for boycotts. That's not what I'm saying at all. All of these tools are at our disposal. What I'm saying is, at what point, what are you asking for here other than the misery of unaffiliated people with the acting government who are just trying to live their lives? Folks, I have even seen people suggest that if what you really want is regime change in Russia, what we have to do is convince every Russian, and that means holding the line on anything Russian from a consumer perspective. Folks, you know what I would like in Russia? Well, not so much Russia right now, but you know what I would like from Russia? Peace. Right? Peace. That's what I would like. Dude, no one is in any way ever going to say anything other than awful things about Vladimir Putin, and that's great. But why is it the job of American consumers to force regime change through consumption choices on the number 2 nuclear power in the world? Folks, regime change according to who? And why is this even a good idea with a madman with his finger on the button of nuclear annihilation? We want to say no to all kinds of products. We want to not let these people across borders. We want to not let them work so we can pressure him. Pressure him to do what? Act out? We don't know what's going to happen with these sanctions and how it's all going to be interpreted. There's a lot of ways it could go well. There's a lot of ways it could go bad. It's worth thinking about both as we craft policy and suggest certain things. And then pressuring private actors, including in the fight space or out of it, to be gratuitously harmful to ordinary people who had this thrust upon them just last week, I gotta tell you, I don't think is a very good idea. Let's leave the Russian fighters alone, and let's allow them, at least for the time being, to earn a wage as best they can. That's all any of us are trying to do.